Hey everyone, and welcome back to another King Arthur Legends Rise video. So in today's video, we're starting a new kind of series. It's not going to be as common as the overviews of heroes, but I do want to take some time and do deep dives on heroes because I've had a lot of comments talking about, oh, can you show the gear? How do I build this hero? Why can't I get the same kind of damage out of my Cormac or X character? So I figured once I actually have the character fully built, and this is part of the problem with this series, is in order to really show the full capability of a hero, you will need to have them awaken to 6-star to have their banner unlocked. Without this, it's really hard to show the full potential of somebody because this last banner slot is really, really important. So don't expect these very often, but whenever I do have the capability to do it, this is what I'm going to be doing, okay? So, Cormac, I've talked about him a lot in a couple of these past videos. I'm going to show you how I have mine built, and then I'm going to talk about a bunch of different ways that you can build him, his applications, who pairs well with Cormac, all of those things, okay? We do have to do a quick touch base on his passives because they do matter. So his first passive, anytime he attacks, he gains defense increase 1 for 2 turns. This is on a 2-turn cooldown. You can get it skilled down to 1 turn. So every other turn this can happen. And the gain defense increase starts out at 1 turn. But again, if you're skilling up the passive, you will get that additional turn. There is this, if there are 3 or more enemies, you have 100% chance to inflict evasion rate, decrease 2 on all enemies. This is rarely going to come up because you're not really going to be building Cormac with effect accuracy, but it is something to mention. However, the additional damage here is actually really good. This comes, I believe, with one of these chivalries. We'll talk about that in a second. His second passive is he has a 90% chance to trigger when an ally is hit. So anytime an ally is hit, he heals all of his allies based on 18% of his defense. It's really nice. You can actually skill that down to a 2-turn cooldown as well. So those are his passives. Now let's talk about his chivalries. So Chivalry 1 is skills which deal damage according to the number of targets, also deal additional damage based off of defense. So this gives him additional defense scaling capability, which is a huge deal. He has dual multipliers on his relics. So you have to build him with attack and defense, which isn't bad because it then allows him to be a little bit tankier. He can take a hit where other heroes like Bedivere or Kay or Tristan, all of those types of heroes, they're kind of squishy. Cormac is not, so that's really cool. His Chivalry 2 is he gets additional recovery and defense. This is nice because his second passive heals himself, so any additional recovery is good, and then the defense is going to give him more damage. So his Chivalry 3 is Frigid Endurance, where he gains a decreased cooldown of 1 turn and a defense increase 3 for 1 turn. This is really interesting. So I believe what this is saying, because it doesn't actually tie it into the actual passive itself here on the screen. And we're going to test this whenever we go into, some kind of trial run here. I'm almost positive that whenever he attacks, what this ends up doing is gives him defense increase 3 instead of just the defense increase 1. I think that's what that does, but we'll test that. I've never really even paid attention, but it would make sense considering how much damage Cormac does. His 4th Chivalry deals additional damage based on defense to all enemies with the Irish Memorial. So this is what ends up being applied on that Chivalry 4. Chivalry 5, more defense. 6, more defense. 7, attack and HP. And then Chivalry 8, he no longer removes his defense increase, and the trigger rate is increased to 40%. So this starts at 50% chance to trigger, and if it did trigger, it removes his increased defense that he gets from his original passive, and if anybody puts defense increase up on him, So this is a real big chivalry 8. And then he gets more attack, and then HP, and then element compatibility. If anyone doesn't know what this is, it's if you are a positive element. So if Cormac is a positive element of, ice, and he's going up against fire, traditionally, if you have a positive element, you do 25% additional damage for that element bonus. The element capability gives you 5% more damage, so you'll do 30% additional damage because of the positive element affinity, and you'll take less damage. So this is a really strong option as well, a really strong chivalry. Okay, so talking about his relics, he comes with his Storm Relic. I don't think you should invest in Cormac when you have his Storm Relic, because, as I mentioned in a video prior, if you're building him for his storm damage, K is much easier to build. Her multipliers are lower. However, she gets a ton of buffs from her passives and from her individual Storm Relic, which is critical strike damage increase and crit rate increase too. So you don't need to worry about 40% crit rate, where you do have to have that on your Cormac. On top of that, if you have similar gear, you can throw something like that on Arthur on his Storm Relic, and his multipliers are even better than Cormac's. Even though Cormac's multipliers on his Storm Relic actually aren't that bad. Like, it's very, very strong, but he is just outclassed by those other two because of the adaptability in the gear with K, and then also the multipliers are still better on Arthur, ironically. The Frost Relic I've mentioned multiple times in videos, and this is the one that you want to worry about, okay? The reason why is because his AoE attack, all of his relics have the AoE attack, but both the Fire and the Storm Relic have the AoE attack on the skill too, which could at times be better because it's less vigor, but whenever the AoE ability is on the skill 3, the damage multiplier is just a whole lot better. And all of these abilities that scale off of the number of enemies in the game really matters, especially if he has his additional chivalries. Because as we've already seen, all of these damage dealing abilities that are based off of defense, they deal additional damage. It's like a hidden kind of multiplier that you don't really see when you have a skill like this, where your damage is scaling both off of attack and defense. So it's kind of tricky how the developers did that, but it is really important to know. So yeah, this is the most important skill. It's going to be the one that you're spamming the most. If you end up, not having enough vigor, you're going to want to use your skill 1. Your skill 2 here, even though it does have a decent multiplier, you want to be able to use this skill 3 almost at all points in any kind of run. I also believe that if you're using skill ups, I know these books are very hard to come by, but I believe that he is the most valuable person to use these Frost rare books into. I don't know of any other rare that is reasonable enough to use this. So I'm still missing 3 books here. So I'm missing 90% additional damage. I'm going to try and snipe another one. All right, we got one on video. So very nice. So now I have an additional 30% attack damage. So 300% of his attack plus additional attack and defense. So that's very good. So yeah, that's the whole point of using this ability. Now, how do you build him, right? Because he scales off of attack and defense. I have always gone for the attack and look for substats in defense. But I will say, I know a lot of people end up having, defense percentage, necklaces. They might also have defense percentage earrings. And if you do, hold on to them because they're going to fit well on Cormac. But we'll talk about that here in a second. So when it comes to actual sets, right? When you're looking at the individual sets, right now I have mine on attack and critical, and then Strife set is on his keepsakes. These are perfectly good beginner sets. My Cormac is not Endgame. I'm nowhere near the top 10% of players in this game. I'm somewhere in the middle or slightly above upper middle. Okay, so you have to take all of these things with a grain of salt. But I think these are great beginner sets. The attack set is really good. The critical set is also extremely good on Cormac, considering he does not have anything in his kit that gives him critical strike rate up. And you want to be critting every time with your damage dealers. So the crit rate set is going to go a long way in helping you get there. Now, I do have mine in attack. But if you're looking for an endgame build, what you're really going to prioritize is the damage set. The damage set is very, very strong. It's a 2-piece damage set. If you can get 6 pieces of this, this will be your route. However, it's going to be hard to get 6 really good pieces of damage set with the right substats because he's going to be very stat intensive. All right? So 6 pieces of damage set, I think, is going to be your best bet to maximize the damage, but this is a long-term goal. Cormac wears the speed set well. He really does. But you are going to lose out on some damage, and a lot of runs that you'll have in the endgame with Cormac are really going to depend on if you can get enough DPS out of him. So the speed set is, again, kind of like an endgame gear set for high-end PvP, because you're going to be competing against a lot of other fast Cormacs to get your damage in. So these are the 2 sets that you're looking for endgame. In the meantime, though, attack set is perfectly fine. I think 4 pieces of crit set are actually pretty good to pair with the defense set. I think that's a really, really strong Cormac, and I think if people want to strive for that, they should. You're getting 34% crit rate by having just that 2-piece set. I think even a 6-piece critical set is decent. I don't think that's that bad. Whenever I get the opportunity to upgrade some more gear and things like that, I will be taking off the attack set and going more towards the critical set and defense set and see if I can sneak in some damage stuff as well. So let's go back to the individual pieces, and we're going to talk about some of the substats that you're really going to be looking for on the left side, and then on the right side, some of the main stats you really want. So on the left side, these pieces are really, really easy to understand. You want just pure damage dealing substats. So you're looking for the defense percentages. You're looking for attack percentage. You're looking for crit damage. You're looking for crit rate. You're looking for hit accuracy. And you're looking for attack speed. Those are the items that you want. If you have HP in there, it's not the end of the world. Like if that's your last roll on your piece of gear, that's still solid. You do want your Cormac a bit tanky, especially in the PvP game modes. If you do get outsped, but your opponent's Cormac actually doesn't have enough DPS to take you down, your Cormac, if he gets a turn, could end up just wiping the entire team. So on my pieces here, you see I have crit rate, I have hit accuracy, I have attack speed, I've got crit damage, hit accuracy, defense percentage, attack percentage, crit damage, defense percentage, effect resistance. Here, this would be amazing if it was crit rate, if it was attack speed, any of those things. But my items are still okay. This one is certainly lacking. I do have attack percentage necklace. I think here, attack percentage or a defense percentage necklace is going to go a long way for his damage. If you can find a defense percentage necklace with some good substats, that might be okay. Like this, I think this is a perfectly reasonable necklace. And if I didn't have an okay necklace here in the crit set, this could be a viable option. But I've already told you I kind of want to get away from the attack set. But a piece like this is really good. So yeah, also here, defense percentage, attack speed, and crit damage. This is an amazing piece for an endgame Cormac. If I'm going to be putting him in an attack speed set, that's going to be great. When it comes to the earrings, I think that a critical strike rate earring is the way to go. It is just so hard to get crit rate on your Cormac that I don't see how you could make this work without crit rate, especially for most players. Now, the endgame people who are farming gear, crafting gear all the time, what they're going to end up looking for is something along the lines of like a critical strike damage earring with attack percentage and crit rate. That's going to be an endgame build because you just get so much crit damage out of that. Like a 6-star earring in crit damage is almost 33% additional crit damage. That's really hard to pass up, but you really need to maximize your crit rate here. You see, I have crit rate earrings, and I'm still only at 73%, and you've seen a couple crit rate substats on my pieces here. And I even have a crit rate gear set pairing. And I'm still only at 73. Now, I'm even missing like some opportunities here like HP, effect accuracy, and evasion. This is kind of a stinker necklace for me because 3 out of the 4 substats are actually kind of bad. But here, these earrings are also bad. Like, I would much rather have crit rate earrings with crit damage, attack percentage, speed, and then what's the accuracy? Not effect accuracy, attack accuracy, whatever it is. Why can't I think of it? It's hit accuracy. Jeez. Hit accuracy. So yeah, so these two pieces, you see, like my Cormac has tons of room to still grow. So crit rate or crit damage is really important here. If you can't hit the crit rate stats, you really want to get crit damage. It's going to go a long way. And then for the ring, I really don't think it's negotiable. You need attack speed. You really do. It's one of those things that if your guys are way too slow, like right now, my Cormac is at 198 speed. And this is good. It's still too slow for stage 10 on some of these equipment dungeons. It's not good enough. Right now, where I'm at in PvP, it's outpacing 90% of the people, but I'm also in low plat, which is nothing. So I would expect his speed somewhere needing to be in the 250 range, something like that. I think his effect resistance is too high. However, effect resistance is something that is viable for him. If you do have effect resistance pieces and you think it's a bad stat, it's not terrible. The reason why is a lot of the PvP heroes are going to be using someone like Morgan, and Morgan puts up defense decrease. And that actually really hurts his damage. So if you have some high effect resistance, she might not land those debuffs. So yeah, here, I think attack speed is really non-negotiable. This is just such an important stat. I don't think you can muddy the waters here with defense percentage or attack percentage. You just need to have attack speed. When it comes to the keepsakes, he has 2 reasonable keepsakes to wear on him. So right now I have a Strife set, which is pretty good overall. I think it might be his best keepsake. However, another option for his keepsakes is this focus set. So the focus set is going to end up giving him additional defense and then reduce his damage taken. I think it's an okay option. He needs to gain a buff, but he gets defense increase whenever it comes to his first passive. So this is something to think about, but I do think Strife is just probably better in 90% of applications. So Strife is what you really want to utilize on your Cormac. And I'll show you why. First of all, it's great in dungeons, and it's fantastic in PvP. So when it comes to the Strife set and your belt, so this is the first one you unlock at 1 star. This is really important. The orb is also important because you can get attack speed there. This last piece is important for a couple reasons. One, it ties in all of the equipment bonuses for your keepsakes. So these are all 3 set pieces. You can't get these additional benefits, which are huge. You know, gaining attack increase, charging your attack gauge, and then healing yourself up is a big deal. But also on these pieces, you have this pierce ability, which ignores defense, and on the banners here, you can get additional critical strike rate, and you can also get crit damage. So that's where a lot of your numbers, your damage numbers, are going to come in. So it's really important to unlock this last piece. So when you're looking for the main stats on the belt, it's really easy considering you can't get crit rate, you can't get crit damage, nothing like that here. So you're looking for attack, just flat attack or flat defense. I think those things are really, really good. And here I have some decent substats. I didn't get good rolls. I would have much preferred crit damage or crit rate to get additional rolls here. But HP's whatever, recovery's also okay. It ties into his second passive. On the orb, I do think attack speed here is very good. I think hit accuracy, you do have some viability in it, especially whenever you get up to the higher stages of arena. But in regards to just dungeons, he seems to hit well. Like, he doesn't seem to struggle like Bedivere. However, you're usually using Bedivere against weak elements, which is why he needs a little more higher hit accuracy, where with Cormac, you're really just bringing him in against other frost heroes or fire element enemies. So I guess you could end up using a hit accuracy orb. That wouldn't be the end of the world. It would really avoid you missing, especially if you want to, take him in other dungeons. So hit accuracy could work there, but it's those two. It's attack speed or hit accuracy. Also on the substats, you're looking for attack percentage, crit rate, crit damage, all of the necessary things, defense, attack percentage. And then on the banner, you can do pierce, but I think if you're like me, I am hunting for another Strife set crit rate banner to get him up to 100%. His crit damage is also too low, but he just does plenty of damage. If you look at his attack and his defense, it's not very high, but he still just cranks out the damage because of his chivalries. It's that hidden multipliers that we were talking about. So who does he pair well with? That's the next question. I think what you're looking for here are people that give plus defense or plus attack. So Aine is absolutely amazing. Her first passive or her second passive gives critical strike damage as soon as she comes into play. If you have her Chivalry 3, or if you use her skill 2, she'll give him additional critical strike damage. On top of that, on her Relic, her baseline Relic, her skill 3 gives defense increase 2. This is a big buff for him to go along with his Chivalry. The defense increases do stack, so that's a big deal. On top of that, you have someone like Merlin. On his skill, on his passive 2, when you use his skill 3, he also gives defense increase 2. But that's on a skill 3. Same thing with Sarah. Her baseline Storm Relic, her skill 3 gives defense increase 1, which is okay. But I think he pairs best with Turin. Turin just does a whole bunch of really good things in this game, and we should probably deep dive her next. But anyway, on her baseline Storm Relic, she gives defense increase 2 on her skill 2. So all the other ones that we've looked at give defense increase 2 only on their skill 3. So she can have this up consistently, and he's just cranking out damage, which is awesome. On top of that, she turns the weather to night on her first passive, and Cormac gets additional benefits at nighttime. So whenever it's night, he gets additional speed, he gets additional damage, and he takes less damage. So he pairs the best with Turin, for sure. And then you can't say he can't pair well with Morgan. She's the one who enables all of his damage. And we're about to see that right now. So let's take him for a spin, and we're going to show you a couple things here. So in Coliseum, he's best in class here. We talked about this the other day when I made my arena video, but he grants everyone attack speed 20%. Speed is king in this setting. Cormac's my main damage dealer. Kay's my follow-up. Here I have Ain for the counter attack, but I also have the ability to use her skill 3 and give him increased defense. So you'll see the Strife set come into play here a lot. So here we're using Morgan. We're pushing everyone back. And now Cormac gets to go in and basically wipe everybody. And if he kills people, his Strife set's going to trigger, and he'll get an extra turn. So he ended up killing the Morgan there, and now he gets that bonus turn. And if you see here, he gave himself plus 20 increased defense. Plus 20% defense from his passive 1. And now he can go in and he can skill 2 or try and kill someone else. And then the rest is history. We just go in there, we clean everybody else up, and then we move on about our day. So that's where the Strife set's actually really, really strong. You can go in, you can kind of just wipe out an entire team, or at least get them close, and then move on from there. But this is where his speed matters a little bit more. He also does have the speed lead in the main story. So if you guys are struggling in hard mode or something like that, he's a great addition in here, you know, especially against fire heroes. You'll see a lot of times too, the bonus clear conditions, a lot of times they'll use 2 or more X heroes. And the defense ones are really hard because there's not very good defense heroes, so Cormac kind of fills that role, which is great. But he does have that attack speed lead. One of his best applications is in this Nest of Jeskelheg, where he can farm stage 9 really reliably. You can use him with Turin in here. She's going to increase his defense. Morgan's going to be your damage enabler, and then Sarah's just in there to help with the boss having buffs. Now, I've had people also talk about speeds. When it comes to speed tuning your characters, you will always want your buffers and your debuffers to come first. So Sarah is doing something completely different here. She is going in and she's just putting up no buffs on this boss, right? Morgan is your damage amplifier. She is the one who's going in and putting up defense down, and she's putting up increased damage taken. You want her going before Cormac for sure, because if she lands those, Cormac is doing more damage. You also want Turin to go before Cormac, because Turin is going to use her skill 2 ability and give him additional defense, which is going to increase the output of his damage. All of those things I hope make sense. So that's what this team's doing. We're going to prioritize attacking the boss. Okay, so we got repeat battle on here. We got Sarah for the block buff. This is where, okay, so Turin there puts up the increased defense, right? So I didn't do it fast enough here because it's for one turn. This defense increase is Cormac from his passive. But I do want to slow it down Okay. Slow her down. So right now, to start things off, we got no boosts, right? All right, so Sarah's going to go in and do her thing. Block buffs. Morgan. Now, this is where the boost from the defense, 40% additional defense. So this is really going to crank up his damage. So he goes in, does damage, and then he gets an additional damage from his passive. Sadly, it's on cooldown. Dang it. So I think we're going to die. Yeah. I have the wrong relics on my heroes. I was hoping that the amount of damage that I was doing on that front leg was going to work, but it didn't. Let me change Sarah real quick here, and then maybe this will work. She needs to be in her frost relic. Okay. All right. Let's try this one more time. Turin is also a weak affinity, but I was hoping that Cormac would actually end up one-shotting. However, he did not. Okay, increased defense, big damage, and it's because he's not critting on some of these enemies. That's why he's kind of not able to clear this first wave. You see the first hit wasn't a crit, the second one was. You'll see he actually produces some really strong damage here on this front leg. He almost one-shots it. And then Turin is still, just live. That might be enough for us to win. That might just be enough, because then we get the additional damage out of Cormac with the additional defense. He gets the extra turn because he killed one of those wings and gets additional attack from the Strife set. All of this stuff really matters, so the additional attack here. So now turn goes down, but I think we just have enough. So because the boss has those 3 appendages, that's why Cormac's able to pump out so much damage, is he's getting those additional hits off of his skill 3. So anyway, yeah, he's fantastic here. He can be used in Origin. I think there's some better options here, but he's certainly good there. And then Plane of Beasts, he's great. Frozen Plain, still an option as well. And then he's also extremely good in Sealed Temple. He makes his favorite dungeon joke. I think everyone knows that. And he's really good in Forbidden Dungeon. But yeah, guys, that's the deep dive on Cormac. I hope this is what you were looking for. Please comment below if this was useful, if it was pointless. Love to hear the feedback. I hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the next one. See ya.